Welcome to the first of our regular updates from Unite Scotland. My name is Andrew Brady and I'm being joined by my colleague Peter Welsh. Now, in this update we want to kick off, of course, by talking about International Workers' Memorial Day, which is happening in events all across the United Kingdom and indeed the world today. And of course, we've got to remember that tens of thousands of people in the UK are still, if not being killed at workplace accidents, then being injured, and often resulting in them taking extended periods off work because of a lack of health and safety regulation that is happening as a result of the Conservatives' deregulation. Peter, do you want to just give us an update on some of the work that Unite Scotland's doing in relation to health and safety? There's some really important updates on this.
Well, on International Workers' Memorial Day, let's focus on what's happening currently in Scotland. It's quite timely that there is a bill before the Scottish Parliament just now that's introduced by Richard Baker MSP, the Culpable Homicide Scotland Bill, which seeks to revisit a long-standing trade union campaign that in companies, individual company directors should be responsible and culpable under law for the health and safety of their employees, health and safety of the workplace. And the long and the short of it is this: it will put the onus of responsibility legally on controlling minds or individual directors within the company to address the health and safety issues that are at play in their work. Now, the Scottish Parliament, throughout the duration of the history of the Scottish Parliament, we've been no stranger to workplace fatalities and serious incident, from Stockline to offshore helicopters, Flying Phantom tragedy, tug on the Clyde, and in Scotland we unfortunately have had a population, a higher incidence of workplace fatalities than the rest of the UK. I think just now we're approaching 43 over a 2-year period, which excludes incidents which are covered under the authority of the Marine Accident Investigation Branch and the Civil Aviation Authority. So that shows you the extent of the problem. Richard's bill represents unfinished business for the trade union movement. As you know, the STUC and affiliate trade unions, long-standing campaigners for the introduction of legislation of this nature, which we believe would bridge a democratic deficit in workplace health and safety in Scotland, and also as well ultimately make Scottish workplaces a safer place to be. Good employers have nothing to fear, but where we can make the improvements, this law would most certainly do that, and it would ultimately better protect working people in Scotland today if we had this law. What we would be urging our members to do, the consultation process for this bill is now finished, but meetings are being had with the Scottish Government representatives, and it's never too late to get in touch with your MSP to ensure that this bill does indeed go through and we get this on the timetable. For us, it's something that's a progressive step that we can do in Scotland now. The health and safety executive budget across the UK has been slashed by 35%. It's this year that we're going to get the worst of that cut that's been put on by the coalition government. And enforcements are down around a third across the health and safety executive as well. We need stronger legislation to protect people at work. It's simple. It's a democratic deficit that needs to be bridged, and it's also an idea that's time has come.
Couldn't agree more, Peter, and it's an absolute scandal that the coalition government, the cuts that they have made to the health and safety executive and the continued deregulation for workplace health and safety standards. So we appreciate many of you may not be able to participate and attend an event today for International Workers' Memorial Day, but you can participate in remembering those who have sadly lost their lives in a workplace fatality, or indeed those who have been severely injured, by using the hashtag IWMD15. So please lend your support for the campaign for stronger workplace safety and stronger regulations. Peter, Could you give us an update just briefly on the job losses that were announced last night at Tullis Russell?
Well, obviously this has come as a bolt out of the blue. There was no consultation or forewarning given to the trade union about the extent of the redundancies. There is upwards of 470 full-time posts at Tullis Russell, an employee-owned company, and 325 were told yesterday morning that they would be subject to immediate redundancy by the appointed administrator, KPMG. We were talking about a deregulatory agenda that's ongoing in the last 5 years across the UK, and once again, the poverty of employment law and redundancy law for UK workers has once again been exposed. Rice Krispie redundancy, cornflake redundancy, as I think it's popularly called amongst academics in the past. But time and time again we see this, that UK workers are amongst the easiest to fire across the European Union. Tullis Russell, a workers' cooperative, and a viable plant, this just shouldn't be happening, and it's absolutely devastating for our members. Meetings with the Scottish Government and local political representatives are currently ongoing just now, and there will be meetings with the workforce continuing into this week. So the story's not cut and dried. We will be fighting hard for our members' interests in there. Ultimately, what we're looking for from the Scottish Government is urgent intervention for what was described less than a month ago with the opening of the biomass plant on site at Tullis Russell as an intervention that would safeguard 500 jobs for the future. What's changed in less than a month? A bolt out of the blue announcement, one that would be absolutely devastating for local jobs in the local area in Fife, and again highlights, as I said, the weakness of the employment law agenda in the UK.
It's, as you say, Peter, it highlights the culture of deregulation, but also deindustrialisation, which is happening. If we want to have a balanced economy, which of course everybody wants, from the services sector to the manufacturing sector, print and publishing industries, then it's important that we keep workplaces open like Tullis Russell because of the sort of economy that we want to develop for Scotland going forward. And on the issue of the economy, I know, Peter, you want to just give a short update on some of the economic figures that are up and out before we talk about some of the living standards collapse figures that have also been released today.
Well, not being an economic expert, like many people, I get my information from the newspapers, but it was quite stark to see today the announcement that living standards over the last 5 years have been among the worst since records began. And again, this comes back once again to the politics of austerity that have been practiced over the last 5 years. Earlier last week, we've seen that during this period of austerity since 2010, post-financial crash, that the wealth of the highest earners, the super rich, has actually increased. Well, in real terms for the average Joe across the country, the cost of living has gone up, and it's a more expensive business going about more lives each and every day. It's a black and white issue for me. The inequality gaps are getting bigger. Long-standing chronic poverty has never been more prevalent in the figures that we see, and then we're in the white heat of an election campaign. So now the choices are becoming more apparent about what our future is going to be, and we've got an opportunity to do something about it come May the 7th, and people across the country will be doing that. But it's clear to us that the politics of austerity, and austerity is an ideology, let's be honest about this, and the economics at play within it are a choice that have been put on us by the coalition government. There is a better way, and we can't go on like this.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to have studied economics at university or college to understand what is going on. And I think over the last 5 years, the figures show that there has been a reduction in living standards when you take into account taxes, how much people are getting paid, and inflation of a 0.6% reduction over the 2010-14 period, which is in contrast with the previous 5 years before that, which actually showed a living standards increase of 6.9%. This comes as no surprise to those in the trade union movement, or indeed working families and those who have been made unemployed because of the austerity agenda that has been pursued by the coalition government, whereby we have 1.4 million people on 0 hours or limited forms of employment, maybe up to 10 hours a week if they're lucky. This is the sort of economy, the crisis in living standards, the crisis in casualisation of people in the world of work that has been enforced by this coalition government, as well as the deregulatory agenda that we have seen when it comes to workplace health and safety. So a lot of really important issues that are happening today, in particular, of course, international work. Thanks for watching this first of many regular updates from Unite Scotland.